I'm Zach Snyder.
And I'm Aden Matthews.
And welcome back to another YouTube podcast, the one-stop shop for anything and everything related to YouTube.
We're here to crank one out real quick, if you don't mind.
Crank one out. We both got places to be,
yeah.
Bitches to see, and lasagna to eat.
Tasty, tasty.
Tasty. What's today's main topic going to be before we get into the ritual?
Well, Zachary. Well, James. Zachary Snyder. We got a topic suggested to us by our loyal fan and watcher of all these podcasts, Patient. We let the long list of stuff, and on that list was the do's and don'ts of thumbnails. I figured, hey, we haven't done a graphic design episode yet, and thumbnails are pretty important, so why not talk about that?
That's pretty epic.
Yeah.
I like that.
And easy to do.
Exactly.
Right.
We just changed our thumbnail game for the podcast, too. So that's kind of...
Coincidence?
Kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Did we plan this out? We did. We don't plan anything. We've established that.
Let's be honest. This podcast is one of the least planned things in my life.
True.
But we always try to provide value.
Right.
And it's always a fun time.
I compare this podcast to taking a shit in the sense that I don't plan them, but I do them frequently enough that it becomes a part of my life. So podcasts in that same manner, we do them, but they're always unexpected. You know.
Did I tell you that I have an entire stand-up bit planned, revolving around taking shits and how much I hate doing them?
I'm ready for it. This sounds exciting.
It's an entire stand-up routine solely based around along the lines of I hate taking shits. So hopefully we'll see that surface somewhere in some way.
It's pretty valid, honestly. It sometimes cannot
be
a pleasant experience, especially if you're bloated.
It's never.
Or if you wake up with a stomach ache, that's the worst.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the worst. But I just hate the process of it.
Yeah. I was watching a Super Mega Cast or whatever, and this might be a little graphic, but I'm gonna go for it anyway. Ryan had told a story where he had to go to the bathroom so bad he ran back to the hotel lobby basically, and got into the bathroom or whatever. And apparently him and Matt had been snapping each other the results a lot of the time.
Oh no!
And so
they would be the kind of guys to do that shit too.
And so he has the phone set up, and he gets ready to take a picture, and he does his business right, and the picture goes off. And then he looks at his phone and realizes, hey, nothing's in the bowl. That's interesting. And then he looks behind him, and it's all over the top and the side and the floor and everything. And it looked like it looked like a disaster.
How do you let that happen?
He thought he was doing the right thing, and then he looked back and was like, no, that did not land on target.
That's not okay.
So
that reminds me of my parents have a couple of cats. Yeah. And I was over at their house the other day, and cats use a litter box.
Sure.
And this cat decided to take a shit near the edge of the litter box. So it did not make it inside the litter box. It made it right on the floor outside of it.
That's the worst.
Shit. Yeah.
Having two kids now, I'm having to deal with that every other day. So that makes sense. But enough talk about shit. Let's move on.
Well, I mean, we're talking about our week, right? Let's just jump into.
Let's just jump right into
it. Your week on YouTube, trademark.
Yep.
I think
it's my turn.
I went last time, and I think the last two times before that.
Maybe, yeah. That sounds like something.
It's your time.
It's my time to shine. Daddy-o, beer daddy. All right.
Aden time.
Aden time, indeed. My week on YouTube. Let's see. What have I done recently? Aden on Anchor is still a thing. I finished the second week of that. Yeah. In fact, right before recording this podcast, I recorded another one of them. And it's uploaded and scheduled and ready to go.
Once a week, right?
Yeah, once a week, 30 minutes, every Monday.
I need to listen to those still.
It's already starting to get some viewers back too, and I haven't advertised it at all on Twitter, on YouTube, on Discord, anywhere. I haven't told anybody about it. I'm just gonna do a couple of them and then advertise it. This is my third week in a row of doing it. Having a lot of fun with that.
Hype. one of the really great things about podcasts is that you don't really have to advertise them for them to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You can just kind of like release episodes, and eventually they might get a following if they're good enough.
Right.
And then also, like, the analytics are all in the back. Like, and usually you have to use like a third-party source. Luckily, Anchor has those analytics there. But back in the day, you couldn't even see those analytics for most things right off the bat. But what's great is the viewers, like, they can't see it. So while a video on YouTube might be judged because it's got lower views, a podcast episode, like, nobody knows how many listens it's got.
Right.
So it's solely judged based off quality.
Anchor has done a lot of the heavy lifting on that too.
Yeah.
Just to make that all easier and such, which has made doing that podcast fun and worth it. So
definitely.
That's been great. It's been random. Like, I don't even plan anything with that. I just like turn on the mic and however long I can talk for, usually 25 minutes or so, and then stop. And then like
that's dope.
And then move on from there. What else? Monthly Battle League still isn't off the ground. I've been editing more of that stuff, but it's not 100% off the ground yet because I'm back in college and I had my first 2 days, Thursday and Friday. I actually went back, so I had to get the dorm room set up again, same roommate and everything. And went to all my classes and stuff, and so that was a little bit busy. This should be fine. I got like 2 writing classes, intro to media writing, broadcast media writing, 2 history classes, the 60s, which should be fun, women in European history, and then a elementary statistics math course, because I need another math, and I didn't want to do calculus. So that one sucks, wholeheartedly. That's not a great class, but that's obviously going to keep me busy for a little bit here. And then finally, last but certainly not least, Eoled back to the gosh dang darn video games.
That should be the official title right there.
It really should be. Episode 2 took a lot of work. That might be the most hours I've put into something like that, or at least very close, or like in the top 10 of time spent. Because there was a day for B-roll. I had to record gameplay because a lot of yours was unusable.
Oh, okay.
So I had to record some. Well, it wasn't bad if it was like, if there wasn't any movement, but as soon as like fights started, it got real blurry real fast, so I had to record some of my own.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that. Okay.
Yeah. And then I had to spend the day recording the on-camera stuff, and then I spent a day doing the rough cut edit, and then another one overlaying the gameplay on top of that, and then trying to get it down from like, originally that video was like 40 minutes, and I got it down to 27, so that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I had a lot to talk about. It was about Smash Ultimate, and I had a lot of fun discussing it.
It's a big game.
It's a very big game. There's a lot about it that I wanted to talk about. And I did it. Uploaded it on Friday with a thumbnail that I hated, and then later fixed that thumbnail, so it's a lot better if you go watch the video now. But yeah, crazy amount of work, crazy amount of stuff put into it. I'm satisfied with it, but I've gotten into a bad habit recently of just starting to nitpick all my own shit, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just because the production value is finally getting better, and I'm getting into more uncharted territory that I'm starting to nitpick more, but for whatever reason, I am not letting myself enjoy this as much as I want to, and that's kind of a problem.
I'll talk about it more on my section, but I am just now starting to like fully enjoy making every episode of Your Everyday Nerd. So I completely get what you're saying.
That makes me feel good, but also worried because you're like 37 episodes in.
Yeah.
And you're just now enjoying it.
That's fair.
So
no, I've enjoyed it for the most part, but there's just been like, I'll explain it in my section.
Okay.
Yeah.
But overall, the video was pretty good. I watched it back and was like, yeah, this isn't as bad as I think it is, honestly. It just took a rewatch or two. I helped Kyle with a couple of thumbnail stuff. There's now a For Fun and Profit thumbnail, an update thumbnail, and then some for some of his series. There's a Oracle of Seasons one that I worked on, and a couple of other things. The Paper Mario one now doesn't have numbers, so you can add to that. So, been helping him out with thumbnails. Nice. And then later today, I got to record Let's Play stuff with Parker for Lions Honor Gaming. Not sure what we're going to do there, because I don't have Stardew Valley yet. And recording with Donovan, good old Caffeine Dragon, Castlevania 3 COCOM. I don't know anything about that game, hardly, and I've never commentated with him before. So both of those will be new experiences, and should be a lot of fun. And on top of all that, I got my mom's birthday party that we got to go to in about an hour or so, 2 hours from now. So
nice. Busy day.
That's why I'm here. Yeah, because basically with college being a thing, I have to do all my recording on the weekend. And so everything is kind of scheduled for these 2 days, which is good because I don't want to do it in the middle of classes and such, and I'd rather spend that time editing and figuring out fine details.
Right.
But yeah, back to the video games is good. I finally learned about manual focus. I've been using autofocus on that camera for so long, and I'm like, what is this little ring on the front? Oh, that's Oh, okay. And it works a lot better, needless to say.
I get it now.
Than autofocus does. But I don't know. What did you think of it? I guess. What did you think of the Smash video?
I really enjoyed it. I think that I almost like this one a little bit more than the first one.
I do, for sure. I'm in that
because like it's so much clearer the amount of passion you had for Ultimate than like Mario and Zelda 1.
Sure. And
that didn't mean that the first episode was bad by any means, because I was really interested in hearing your thoughts about those games as well. But it was just cool to like hear all your thoughts about the game, and I liked the different segments. I liked the way you did the B-roll, and like it was a very well put together video.
Sure. A little less comedy stuff in there than the first one, but the jokes that were there are some of my favorites.
Was fine. Yeah, exactly. The pacing was really well done, because like the first episode of the show that you had, there was a lot of comedy, which I really enjoyed, but it almost felt like they were happening a little bit too quick. Mm-hmm. And in this episode, like there wasn't that much, but it was in the right place.
Sure. You want to know the reason for that?
I like that. Because you didn't have enough time to record more comedy bits.
The day I had to leave, I'm like, Ethan, we got to record something here. He's like, okay, let's just do all this stuff. There was actually one that got cut. We originally recorded like 4 or 5, but only 3 made it in.
Yeah.
The same for the Mario and Zelda episode. I actually cut a segment out of that. So there's always one that manages to get on the chopping block, but the Jigglypuff one and Big Boy are two.
That was really good.
I love both of those.
The Jigglypuff one made me laugh out loud. Like I just got lost on shit for a second. Let me ask you this: are you keeping the footage for the cut ones?
I still have the Smash one. I have all the footage for Smash still. I think some of the Mario stuff I had to clear off because I needed more room on the SD card. But
so for the segments that you're cutting out, I would either A, post that on Twitter, or B, like make that part of like Patreon exclusive content or some shit.
That could be, yeah. I hadn't thought of it before. I know another thing that I'm going to have to do eventually with that show is figure out how to get the perspective right, because it's still cutting off my head a little bit. And that's fine, because it's a little...
I had that issue for the first, 10 videos.
Right, I get that. Yeah. The problem, though, is that I have a green screen set up, right? And so, on paper, it should be very easy for me to get thumbnails, because you can pause at any frame, cut out the green, thumbnail. Right. But because my head's getting cut off, unless I'm in, the very top of the thumbnail, it doesn't look good. So, for episode 1 and 2... I've had to find the most awkward ways of taking a photo with my phone, using the timer and putting it in weird positions, and then slowly but surely cropping it out in GIMP, adding the outline, and then putting it on the thumbnail. So that's just been absurd. The thumbnails in Back to the Video Games I'm not still happy with yet, but it's just because I'm new to that, putting live action elements in there. But we'll talk about that stuff when we get to thumbnails. That was pretty much my week, though, as a whole.
That's right. We're talking about thumbnails today.
Yeah, I'll save it. I'll save it for that.
Perfect.
How was your week?
My week was interesting because I started Monday and Tuesday with no new episodes because I was, putting out the stuff that should have gone out last week. But I feel like I'm finally on the right track with the show. I think I'm going to be able to make it through next week all right. Actually get episodes out on a timely manner like I, said I was going to. But I kind of found a better routine with these episodes, because doing the rough edits on a separate day than the actual like edit for these episodes has made me enjoy the process of making the episodes better.
I love that. In episode 2, I did that, of doing the rough cut, then the extra bonus shit later after the fact.
Right.
So
because I hate doing rough edits. I absolutely hate it. It's not fun. It's time consuming. You just have to like listen to yourself talk about random shit, and you know, it's just annoying, and I don't like it. So it was nice this week because I had already had Wednesdays and Thursdays rough edits done before the week even started, since they were supposed to technically go out last week. So I ended up getting those videos done the night before they needed to go out. And then Fridays and Saturdays rough edits I did like on Thursday, and then just got up early Friday and Saturday mornings and like did the editings for those. And I've been, for this entire week, I spent like 2 hours per video like doing the full edit, and that's a lot more than I've really been spending on these episodes. But I felt better about the episodes after they were finished because I spent more time into it, and I was actually enjoying spending more time into it.
Sure. I've noticed too, especially with this week, I don't know why it sort of dawned on me, and not like the week before or whatever. I've noticed the links of them are also getting a good bit shorter as well.
They are.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like the Mega Man one especially, by the time the video was over, I'm like, oh, it's over already? Cool.
That would end up being, I think that's the shortest episode so far.
Right.
It is, because I only talked about one game. It was an NES game. I didn't have to talk about the entire Mega Man franchise since I already had a couple videos about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it ended up being a lot less that I had to say about it.
Sure.
But that wasn't a bad thing.
It's not the shortest episode, by the way. There's one more that beats it.
Is there?
The Elseworld video
yeah.
is 8:24 compared to Mega Man's 8:47.
Got you.
So barely.
Okay.
But
that's again another shorter one, yeah.
The Flash one too, for 11 minutes, it felt like it went by like relatively quickly. Just because of the way you had it structured and set up, where it was like, wow, I didn't even notice time went by. You know?
That's good.
And that's a very
ideal.
good thing. Especially for like compared to the Favorite Things of 2018 episode, which was like one of your longest, where I enjoyed it the whole time. But I did start to notice the length getting a little bit ahead of you there.
I can see that, yeah.
Sure.
I'm trying to work on pacing. I'm trying to work on writing. I want these to be more entertaining. And one of the things I'm going to be working on for like this upcoming week and the future is I'm going to start talking about some things that not a whole lot of people know about. Like Thursday for next week is going to be about a Japanese film that came out in 1943.
Hey.
So that's going to be like, I looked up reviews on this movie and there's like 5 and like one of them's good. So I'm going to have to like give context about more things coming up in the future. And so I'm like working on making sure that I have just enough context about everything so that people can just come into the episode, not have to know about the topic at all, because that's one of the goals of the show. But also like not get bogged down by that information, because when you do like a review show, a lot of times you can end up giving too much information about the thing and people just get bored.
Sure. That was a tough balance for me in the Smash video. Like, am I doing enough explaining here? Am I not doing enough? Have I gone overboard? Is there still a good mix of humor and like personal opinion? And the way I judge that is like, if I say anything or describe anything, I want to be sure that I at least have some opinion on it. So like if I talk about Smashdown for like a minute or two and explain the mode, there better be an opinion afterward of how I felt about it. Otherwise the explanation is pointless, right? Don't bring up stuff
Otherwise
you're not going
it's
to talk
just
about.
Right. Otherwise it's just like you're reading a wiki page and that's boring and nobody cares.
Sure.
So that is definitely a challenge of the show, especially when I'm talking about so many different things. I think I described the show early on as like, it's my clever way of having a variety channel, right? But still being niche. So there's still its challenges, but like I said, by doing the rough edit on a separate day, it allows me to go into the episode with a fresh mindset, not be completely tired and bored of the episode yet, because I'm just had to listen to myself talk about this shit for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm able to like get more clever with the edits and do more interesting things, add in some extra funny bits that weren't originally planned, and so that's been fun this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've shown a lot of these recent episodes have been good on the shorter side, but sweet. I like that. So
yeah, I want them to be on the shorter side too, because I feel like having a 20-minute, 30-minute video every single day is too much, and it's too much because I'm not able to stay entertaining for 30 minutes at a time. like I probably could if I really put in a whole lot of effort. The fact of the matter is that most people's not going to care for 30 minutes.
Exactly.
That's where you look at the audience retention and you see, oh, I learned this early on with my recap series, that these were like 20-minute, 25-minute, 30-minute videos that were not doing well in the audience retention because I talked too much about shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to keep them on the shorter side if possible, with few exceptions, of course.
Right, longer episodes, obviously, and special episodes can go for however long, really. But
yeah,
you don't want to be. You still haven't hit the point yet in your everyday nerd where there's been a 30-minute episode yet. So that's the number I always look at. If I hit 30. I'm cutting some shit out, right? Or I'll re-record.
Right. My favorite things of 2018 video was originally going to be like 35 minutes, and I was like, no, we can't have that.
Yeah.
I cut out a lot of stuff in that one, and then I know that the Oscars video is going to be coming out in the next month, and that's going to be me talking about 9 movies. So I'm going to try not to go. I'm going to try to keep that one still around 20-something minutes, if possible.
Tough balance.
Depends on how much I have to say about stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much been my week. Still doing client work and shit. I'm working on that. I got to record that application video for the Adobe Creative Residency this week when I record like this upcoming week's episodes. Hopefully I can get that done this week as well.
Hype.
Yeah. It's been a relatively like good week in the creative. I'm starting to get a little bit more motivation back because I've been lacking that lately. Mm-hmm. So that's been nice.
Good shit.
Yes, sir. Are we ready to go into the main topic?
Topic time.
That PewDiePie riff.
I've been using it for everything. Like every other sentence.
You have.
I've been shoving
it's
it in there.
great.
And it's wonderful. PewDiePie stuff, man. I'm telling you. If you haven't watched Zach's Your Everyday Nerd about it, you should.
Yeah, I did an entire video on how to start watching PewDiePie in 2019. And it's basically a tutorial.
There you go.
On where to start watching PewDiePie and his content. And I'm hoping it's going to get a lot more views because of that.
Exactly.
But anyways, do's and don'ts of thumbnails.
Yep. So, before the title, before the description, before they even know anything about you, right? Before they're even noticing your channel, the one thing they're saying when the little recommended videos section pops by, or you're scrolling on Twitter and you see this post, is that ye old thumbnail. And the difference between a good thumbnail and a bad thumbnail could cost you a view or maybe even a subscriber, right?
Definitely.
Depending on how good it is. But it's also one of those things, too, where, unlike, let's say, a sub for sub, where it's pretty black and white, don't do it, right?
Right.
Thumbnails sort of exist in this gray area where a quote-unquote good thumbnail can take the form of so many different things because it's an art and not a science. And so I'm interested to see how you and me break it down to its key defining traits.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I really haven't thought too much about this topic before we did the episode. But it's like thumbnails are so important. So it's like I've thought about thumbnails for a very long time.
They're hugely important.
They really are. They really are.
I guess
what's interesting to me is when you look on YouTube, whether it's on your phone or on desktop or the TV or anything like that, like you said, like the thumbnail is the first thing you see. The title's there too, but the thumbnail is the thing that captures your eye. That's the thing that's going to make you click on the video or not. Unless that title is like super fucking interesting.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, it's why it's so important to like make sure that thumbnail, make sure it's good. Go ahead.
I guess to start, as far as like software and stuff is concerned, me and Zach are a bit different in the fact that I make all my thumbnails on GIMP, which is a free program, image editing, image manipulation type stuff. You can import, you can mess around with things, you can export it in different sizes, make GIFs, PNGs, all that sort of stuff. Zach, on the other hand, is a bit different. What do you use?
I use Photoshop for literally everything, and it's both a gift and a curse.
In the form of that Adobe subscription.
That and that's like I can't get away from it. Like at this point, I'm so ingrained in that ecosystem that like not having it would be the death of me.
You're in that walled garden.
Yeah. It really is. It's almost being privileged in a way. But the privilege is, I'm eating one less meal this month because I'm spending that money on Adobe.
Sure. Makes sense. I've tried using other image editing things and I'm so used to the way that GIMP does it that it's hard for me to change or
it's
even switch
hard.
over.
Yeah, it's the reason like why certain people are in the Apple ecosystem and have an iPhone and are not able to switch over to Android to save their life.
Right, because you're so used to all the specific features that are custom to that, and you have so many products that all interact with each other. It's hard to get away from that. But
what's the number one thing that you like about GIMP?
Oh, about GIMP?
Yeah.
Aside from the fact it's free.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that answer because that's common. I don't know. Like speeds are fast. I get what I need rather quickly, and I'm still learning stuff about it too, for sure. So I haven't hit that point yet where I'm like, this is all I can do in GIMP, and nothing else is available. Typically, if I see something that you do or another YouTuber does, I'm like, I wonder how I could do that. GIMP has a way around that, basically.
Right.
So the way you solve problems in GIMP may be a bit different from like Photoshop or Movie Maker or something similar. But there's a way to get around it, if a bit weird and obtuse sometimes. But for the most part, UI is simple, it's pretty basic. Not a lot of crazy flashy stuff. Some of the distorts are nice. I can like make things mosaic with the click of a button, which is cool. Or like bin things or anything like that. But for the most part, if I had to give like a key strength, it's its simplicity and the fact that it's free, mainly. There's not a whole lot of extra fluff here.
For sure. Yeah. What I've seen of GIMP, and I haven't used it much, but what I've seen of GIMP is that like the fact that it's free but still very like serviceable is really great. And I think it's open source too.
Might be.
So there's like it's constantly being updated if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Which is nice. A lot of support behind the program.
Definitely.
The thing that I like about Photoshop the best is that like I can use it with other Adobe products. So if I'm working in a video, which is, the main thing that we do, if I'm working in a video on an Adobe Premiere and I need to like put an image in that video and I just like drop it in there, but I need to edit that image somehow, I can just right click on the image in the video timeline and say edit in Photoshop and it'll automatically bring up Photoshop.
Yep.
And It's amazing.
Right. Doesn't get more convenient than that.
Yeah. Saves time. It gives me more creative features. But also, like you said, like I'm still learning about Photoshop. There's like probably hundreds of things I don't know how to do in Photoshop that I'm still learning about. So
all right,
it's great. But like you can also do like simple stuff in there without needing to know a lot about it, which is really nice.
Right. It still has that functionality of
exactly
basic and simple edits. But GIMP and Photoshop aren't the only ones out there. Obviously, there's other ways of going around. I think Ethan uses some weird ass like anime one. I don't know. there's like manga.
I think
ones
I know what you're talking about
or whatever.
Yeah.
There's Denku uses MS Paint, so if you're into the meme shit, you can do that.
Let's not do that.
There's an option for everybody. Free stuff, paid stuff. If you know where to look, you can get a lot of cool things out there. I recommend GIMP because that's what I know, and there's a lot of tutorials online to help learn new things. But Photoshop is good if you have the money for it and you have Adobe stuff, and other options are out there too. Basically, we're not going to get terribly into the software and the nitty-gritty type of shit because, like, for the most part, a lot of these programs do the same thing, you know?
Right, for sure.
Which means there aren't going to be that many differences, like, worth discussing to pick one over the other. The important thing is you pick one and you go with it, right? And you stick with it and learn it the whole way through.
Exactly.
That's more of what matters here. But I figured we could at least briefly mention it, so that's what we did.
These programs are tools. At the end of the day, like, you could learn how to do everything on there, but if you don't, like, pay attention to the same concepts that good thumbnails have, if you don't pay attention to the aesthetic and the art side of these things, then you're going to have a much more difficult time making good thumbnails.
Agreed. Yeah. You have to have those fundamentals down more than anything.
Yeah. One of the things that I've found like interesting about thumbnails and just like graphic art in general, because that's really what it is that you have to be able to have kind of an eye for it. And if you don't have an eye for it, you have to develop it.
Right.
And it's the same thing with video, but for me, it's constantly like, like you said, looking at what other people are doing, seeing how you can replicate that, then eventually making it your own.
Mm-hmm. There are two different skill sets. Like, I learned video way earlier than I did, software, image manipulation type stuff. And so what I get from that is like, I'm a little bit more advanced on the video side of things than I am the image things. And sure, there are some crossover type stuff that can happen between the two. But for the most part, they're kind of two different skills. And so my image creation skills are leveling up slowly alongside my video ones. But they're definitely not as advanced as the video stuff for me yet.
Right.
And I'm still working on it.
I completely get that. I'm right around the same thing. I feel like I'm much more advanced in Premiere than I am Photoshop. And it's just because I haven't made as many images in Photoshop as I have videos, because in like the early days of my YouTube career, good old automated YouTube thumbnails were a thing.
Yep. What a dark time.
Yeah, I mean, we did not have the ability to make custom thumbnails until you were a partner. So I'm glad they didn't keep that as a thing.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Man.
That's awful.
But anyways, it's not fun.
Yeah. Let's just go ahead and get right into the ye old nitty gritty, like, details of stuff. Do you use the 1280 by 720 or do you do 1920 by 1080? Because I've heard two camps of this. I know PewDiePie for a fact does 1920 by 1080, and then like YouTube scales it down, I think. I'm more used to 1280 by 720 because that's what YouTube directly tells me. So I'm like, oh, I'll go ahead and do that. But I've heard people like work at oddball specs and then try to scale it down or up depending on where they're at so that YouTube can take it. But I'm interested to see what your perspective is on that.
I think mine is actually let me look at it right quick, because I think I actually use the 4K version of resolution.
Oh, okay.
For it now. because my videos, because I record in 4K, and what is it, like 3,840 by 2160. Such a weird number. I never remember it, but I think that's what I use for thumbnails, because since I record in 4K, even if I don't export it in 4K, any images I put in there have to be like that size or it'll just be a little blurry. And there are certain images that I use like over video clips and stuff that are the size of the screen.
Right.
So I just ended up like transporting that for my thumbnails as well.
Interesting.
And yeah. But at the end of the day, I think you have to be careful with that, because you know what? I might use 1920.
We're learning.
Now I'm thinking about it, I might be 1920, because I think if I like export a PNG that's at 4K quality, it's too big of a file.
Right. Because that's the thing you got to keep in mind is like, in the same way you upload a video, you got to upload a thumbnail, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, YouTube doesn't degrade the quality of the photo as much as it sometimes does the video. But there is that process going on there. And so a lot of things can end up going wrong. Sometimes.
Ultimately, it literally doesn't matter as long as it's like that, like it's a rectangle that fits the common thumbnail space. So if it's like 1920 by 1280 or 1280 by 720, like that's fine. It doesn't matter which one.
Right. And if YouTube doesn't accept it, it'll tell you. It'll be like, hey, you need to put it in this size. And you'll figure it out and you'll put it in that size, really. The only reason I bring it up is just because I hear people in two camps. But from what it sounds like, from how you described it, it's just mainly based off of workflow more than anything. Of like you're used to doing it that way and you record things that way. So therefore your thumbnails are that way. I will say that I think there is a certain appeal to doing them bigger than 1280 by 720 and like giving yourself a bigger rectangle, because a lot of the time thumbnails are showing up on small devices like phones or laptops or like really small TVs or whatever. And so you have to be able to glance at an even tinier rectangle. And if certain elements don't pop out, well then like bad thumbnail and they're moving on. And I find the benefit in working in larger spaces like that is that for me psychologically, if there's more space, I tend to use more of it for some reason.
Mm.
So if I'm working in like 1920 by 1080, I typically fill up more of the space than I would on 1280 by 720, which is weird. That might be a me thing, but I found that helps sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting, because no matter what size I'm working in, I still have the full screen view of it, so it looks the same to me. It just exports at a different size. But that goes into a really good point that you need to be like zooming in and zooming out of your thumbnails when you're working on them, because if they don't look good when they're small, then it doesn't matter how great they look when they're big.
Exactly. You got to work from small and then up, basically. And it helps if you have a bunch of different devices to view that sort of stuff. If you have a phone, a TV, a laptop, and you can like physically look at them or whatever. But you can save yourself a lot of trouble by just making sure before you even upload it and before you check it on your phone or whatever, that you get it right in software, and just make sure, hey, the text is readable, the images are clear and concise, nothing's blurry, all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
Can save you in the long run.
Now I have a template that I use for my thumbnails. We'll get into that, but basically, I just zoom out to, I think it's like 25% or some shit, and the thumbnail in the Photoshop is literally the size of a thumbnail in the YouTube mobile thing. So I can look at it, make sure everything's clear, everything's simple enough to where it like catches my eye, and then I can go from there, adjust anything if I need to.
All right. I can never quite fully zoom in GIMP, but I think that's more to do with my weird monitor size than GIMP itself. But that does mean I get a very like zoomed out perspective too. Kind of a similar principle that you have.
That's good.
So that makes sense.
One of the things that I see a lot of like younger channels do with their thumbnails, people that have never just like worked with thumbnails, is that usually there's too much detail.
Yeah.
Because if you can't see everything there, like, it doesn't matter what's on there. I'm looking at some thumbnails on my home screen right now, and like even one of like Game Grumps thumbnails for like best of December 2018.
Yeah, I've
like,
seen that one.
There's some stuff on there in the background, like I can't tell what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it really doesn't even, like, there's no reason for it to even be on there because I can't tell what it is.
I'm gonna hit you with a term that I learned in college, in a college art class. But everybody should know what I'm talking about. It's basically thumbnails, paintings, photos, good ones anyway, typically have what's called a line of action, in which when your eye immediately sees an image, the path that it follows, basically, that's what the line of action is. And so in really cluttered, really detailed thumbnails like Zach brought up, the line of action's all over the fucking place. Because you're looking at like every single angle, and your eye has a really hard time like visually looking at it. And so in your brain, you're like, this isn't really all that satisfying or that good to look at, basically. It's different if you're like solving one of those visual eye puzzles. Right, it's a YouTube thumbnail. It's not supposed to be this complicated like eye trick or whatever. It's supposed to be nice, clear, and readable. And so looking at Zach's thumbnails right now, there's a very clear line of action in almost all of them. Left to right.
Not all of them, but most of them.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Left to right, right to left. A diagonal line, up and down. Wherever you do it, right? It has to, the line of action has to be consistent and precise. So your eye isn't doing like some weird zigzaggy shit. It's not having to look in like an S or a Z. It's very simple. This is what the video is about. I can clearly look at this thumbnail and read it, like visually. It's very readable. And so I can click on the video and go from there and kind of get an idea of what it's about. And very cluttered, images all over the place, things that don't make sense on thumbnails can be really distracting. And so as a result, they don't feel as good or as nice.
And it can suck because there's been some like really nice thumbnails that I've made before, but when you zoom out, like, you can't fucking tell what it is. And like that kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, like, your thumbnails aren't there to be a piece of art. They're there to get people to click on the video.
I mean, like, paintings have line of action too, but like, we're not talking about surrealist work by Dolly, right? It's a very clear cut and concise thumbnail.
Exactly. Like Aden said, thumbnails are the very first thing that you see. And it's one of the best metrics, one of the most important metrics that is in the YouTube analytics side of things. Because, like, YouTube will show your video to more people if it gets more clicks. And the way it gets more clicks is by being a good thumbnail.
100%.
So, let me ask you this question.
Okay. Hit me with it.
What is the first, where did you, start learning how to make thumbnails?
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I'm just curious.
Okay, so.
I think this could be helpful, too.
I didn't start making thumbnails until, I believe, Blue Catch Productions was a thing. Because if I remember correctly, the Sploder show didn't really have any. I'm looking at it right now. I don't remember.
Nice.
No, it doesn't. So it literally just uses screenshots, basically.
Right.
All my older videos were screenshots, or little bits from the video, which is how YouTube was back in the day, and you literally didn't have an option to add a thumbnail, whatever. So I started picking up GIMP right around the time I started Blue Catch Productions. So I'm about 2 or so years into this and figuring out what to do. And you can see that the style of it has sort of evolved a good bit, needless to say. In the beginning days, the way my thumbnails worked for those at home, and obviously you can't see them, so I'm going to have to try and audibly describe them. But they basically involve 2 triangles in the corners, in the upper left and bottom right, and they were different colors based on what series it was. So if it was Blue Couch Plays, the triangles would be orange. If it were streams, it would be green. If it was Midnight Vlogs, it'd be light blue. And if it was my main series, it would be dark blue. They literally were just like colored triangles. There wasn't any detail in them at all. There wasn't anything like that. As far as text was concerned, I didn't even use GIMP for that. I used what's called Cool Text.
Nice.
And if you've ever tried that out, it's literally pick one of these goofy fonts, type out what you want, download that image, and then put it into your thumbnail editor of choice. So early videos have Cool Text font for a very dumb reason. The numbers did, the text did. And then about the only thing after that was I would put in a background, maybe the game logo, a couple images, and that was it for a long time. It wasn't until around year 2 or so where they started to evolve and eventually became what I like to call the classic Blue Couch Productions thumbnails of like the, what would you describe it as? With the thing on the top, basically?
The like Hawaiian thing?
Yeah, like the Hawaiian aesthetic and the triangles being gone all together and now just kind of displays in a banner, kind of like you would see at a shop or something like that.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Yeah.
But it works for what you were trying to like convey.
I got the idea off of the Game Grumps at the end of every video. They used to have like this little subscribe banner.
Right.
And so I literally took a screenshot of that, put the triangles in there, and then put like a Hawaiian thing in text and called it a day. But then I started adding text. I started adding numbers. I learned more about backgrounds and transparent images, drop shadow, all these unique things. Up until we're at now with Back to the Video Games that includes like live action stuff with me in there and having to deal with outlines and stuff like that. Needless to say, it has been a long journey. And I'm still learning stuff about it even today. I figured out how to outline text in GIMP not too long ago without drop shadow. So that was a really cool thing. But that's sort of like a brief overview of my thumbnails through the years.
Okay. I mean, honestly, your like early thumbnails are still better than my early thumbnails.
Yeah, you go way back.
Because if you go like back to before I updated some of my old gaming channel thumbnails, I used Microsoft Paint.
Yeah.
And that was how my thumbnails were made. And they were just like, they weren't even like 1280 by 720. Most of the time, they were like 900 by 600. Like some like random bullshit. Just because I would take a picture of like the name of a game, put it in MS Paint, fucking put a number over it, and call it a day. Like that was they're awful.
Yeah.
They're so bad. Luckily, I was able to get past that and learn how to make decent thumbnails. But the thing that I've continued to see to be the best way to make thumbnails, and this isn't just for like my thumbnails, but things that I do for clients and stuff, is like simplicity is key.
Very much so.
the most like one of the clients that I have is has a mental health channel, and his style of thumbnails are very super simple. I don't do all of them for him, but like his style is he usually talks about another YouTuber. He has that in the background, and then he has his face on it. That's it.
Yep.
And usually like that, and it works for him. I mean, he's got over 80,000 subscribers now. So the more simple you can get, the better. You still want to be able to stand out. So like having different elements that stand out is good. But even now, like some of my thumbnails, I try to do too much sometimes, and I have to like reel it back and be like, all right, let's calm down. And the ones with more simple stuff usually gets better click-through rate too. More people click on it.
That's true. Yeah. As far as like a first tip, if you like want to write some of these tips down for like good thumbnail design, number 1 and number 2, like straight up, most important, clean and simple. Right? That's not to say that complicated thumbnails can't do well, but typically what you'll find, even with the thumbnails that have like a lot going on, quote unquote, even those are in some way have order to the madness, if you know what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot on screen, but the way it's all put together visually, like, makes sense. And it is clean, right? So even in the more complicated thumbnails, clean and simple still wins the day. And I think that's a good thing, not only for viewers, but for content creators like us, who maybe don't know graphic design and are trying to get into this, right? It's a lot easier to make a simple thumbnail than it is an overcomplicated one. So not only are you helping viewers out that way, but you're left with an achievable goal, right? You're left with something that anybody can do, thankfully. There's not like a walled garden where you have to be a masterpiece at thumbnail art in order to do well on YouTube. You don't. You just have to include a few simple design elements to pull your viewers in, and that'll win the day 9 times out of 10.
Absolutely.
So both of those tips I think are really important.
Most definitely, completely agree. Look at your favorite content creators, especially like the big successful ones. See what they're doing. Literally copy like their format, and it'll still be different and unique because it's your stuff. But it'll help make things like the our gaming channel. Those thumbnails are ripped straight like from Game Grumps.
Yep.
But they're original to us, so they work. And that style, like I've seen Markiplier do it. I've seen like the big Let's Players do it. A lot of people copy each other for this kind of stuff, but it's the simplicity that really helps it.
And you can kind of check yourself too, at least if you're in like GIMP and Photoshop, to look at your layers. And if you're reaching a point where you have like 40 or 50 in any given thumbnail, you probably should look at this and be like, this probably isn't going to help. Less is more. And if you have fewer images and you're able to get more out of it with those fewer images, that's the better route 100% of the time, which is good. Now, sure, you could have like a bunch of layers, but they're like small things or they contribute to the background. But just like getting 50 random PNGs and throwing it on there, it's not going to like do the day. You need to be aware of how many layers you have at any given time. And if it starts getting over like a boiling point, that's a good way to check yourself and be like, oh, I have way too much stuff going on. Most of my quote unquote like professionally done videos, like the ones on Blue Couch Productions, you know what they are? Wood background, blue header, text, and like 1 or 2 images, and that's it. You know? And those are the videos that have the most work put into them. Those are the thumbnails that are probably the most simple, yet those are the ones that do the best, 9 times out of 10. Top 10 Smash Brothers characters I recently redid. Wood background, header, text, picture of Bowser, picture of Zach. Done. Moving on. Channel update, 200 subs, Facebook, and new shows. Wood background, header, channel update, picture of Facebook. Done. One of my favorites, the Smash Wii U analysis. Wood background, header, text, Smash Brothers for Wii U logo, and it looks so clean and nice because there's not like 30 things in there. An even simpler one, every Denku Franku video ever. Header, Comic Sans text this time, and a picture of Sonic Boom Sonic with the B-movie face. But that whole image is just one thing, so I don't have to add anything else to that, right? Really simple stuff can go a long way into getting your viewers enticed and wanting to click on stuff like that.
Definitely.
100%.
When you look at the trending page, which is a joke, like, let's be honest, the trending page is a joke. But when you look at the trending page, all the thumbnails have something in common. There's not a lot going on.
Right.
But the other big thing that's in common with most good thumbnails is that it has somebody's face in it.
Yep.
And unfortunately for a lot of people, this is going to be like, well, I don't want to put my face in the thumbnail. It's like, all right. But the most successful videos usually, not always, but usually have somebody's face in it.
Yeah. And I think the reason for that is just because I've heard it said somewhere that if you have a face in the thumbnail, it's a bit more personable that way.
Yep, absolutely.
Because, like, let's take an example of, like, let's play Super Mario World Part 12 or whatever. Gameplay, maybe a wacky image here or there, game logo, not much of anything, right? And so if you're the average person stumbling along and you know nothing about me, or nothing about what I do, you see this thumbnail and you're like, I don't know what to expect, to be honest. I know he's going to play Mario World. I know there's a part in here. I don't know what you're like. I don't know what your personality is. I don't know who you are. The minute you start to throw in a little bit of you in there, immediately it's like, oh, I can kind of get the idea of what this person is like, right? And this can be in a variety of ways. In the typical worst way of doing it is the Jake Paul, Logan Paul shocked face put on a thumbnail with a stupid background, right?
Right.
Or the way I like to do it, I like to make fun of myself. And I have some very weird features as far as like a creepy stash, a big chin, not the best teeth, right? Like visual problems, if you will. Exaggerate the hell out of that for the video thumbnail, right? I can make fun of myself. Yeah. I'm okay with that. Put down the thumbnail. You're good to go. Or for more simpler ones, like with just me and my dad. Just me and my dad sitting there on the final episode of Questions on the Couch, and it looks clean. That face in there adds a real personal element in there, that it feels like it's not cold and hollow.
Agreed. Yeah, it's even like yourmoviesucks.org, you know, it's a YouTube channel based off of movies, and like his last 6 videos have been about movies, but they're very simple. They just feature like a main character as the thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a close-up shot on the thumbnails, and they look good. Like they're really good thumbnails because they're that simple. And like his Aquaman review is just Aquaman. It's like, okay, I know exactly what I'm getting.
Right.
It works.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his face in it, but we're not expecting to have his face in the video because he's not talking in front of a camera. He's talking behind a mic.
Right. And I think that's part of the reason why we see so many Let's Play channels have a quote-unquote avatar associated with them, is it's that same principle. We're not getting physical Aaron and Dan, but we're getting cartoon Aaron and Dan that do a good enough job, right? We're not getting, Gerard and Alex in every thumbnail, but we're getting a cartoon one that's also happened to be based off the game. Same for Oni Plays, same for Playframe, same for a lot of channels. And that works too. Making a cartoon version of yourself and slapping down an avatar, has that personal connection. And hey, YouTube's full of kids anyway. Might as well go all in on that.
That's true.
It can appeal to that younger audience as well. So there's 2 benefits to that. I don't do it because I'm not that good. And, I imagine trying to make an avatar for me is
we do it for difficult. We do it for the Let's Play channel.
Yeah, Lands Honor for sure.
So,
and I'm still picky about that one.
I like to look at it. I like to look at thumbnails almost like movie posters.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing that I need to study more, actually, is like movie posters. Look at the big blockbusters and look at what they're using on the thumbnail or on the exactly. And look at what they're using on the movie posters, and you'll start to get a better sense of like graphic design, because that's what it comes down to. You start to learn more and more about the medium the more you do it.
Agreed.
The more thumbnails you look at, it's because it is a much more artistic skill set than I'm sure a lot of people are used to doing.
Mm-hmm. Which is why we see so much variation from creator to creator, depending on what type of content they do. Whether it's the Let's Players and the cartoon avatars, the Me and Yous of the world with a review show and a photo of ourselves. Tech channels that thumbnail mainly features the product, or focuses on the subject itself. Games, phones, stuff like that. Ones that show a bit more gameplay, but with a little bit of like visual pizzazz. Music video thumbnails. Again, really interesting stuff where it's more of just like, we took this photograph on set and it looks really, really good, so we're using it as the thumbnail, right? Like, as simple as that could even work if you know what you're doing, right? Like, if you are a great photographer and you're filming your video and you're like, hold on a minute, while I'm on set, while I have all this equipment out, why not go ahead and take a photo so I can save it for the thumbnail later? That's a great idea, and that can work, especially if you already have that skill set. You probably know what makes a good thumbnail if you know how to take a good photo. Go that way if you need to.
Absolutely.
There's so much variation in all of these, and like some are obviously better than others, but for the most part, they're all unique and different, and in a good way.
The key here is to use your strengths, especially with like the photography aspect. One of the things I want to start doing is actually taking pictures for the thumbnails, and I have to have a better camera. Or actually, I could use my phone camera and be fine, but I have to like have a better set to do that for, because I still have to like cut out the image for the thumbnails the way that I do them. But taking pictures of yourself instead of just getting a screenshot out of the video is gonna make your thumbnails a lot better.
Sure.
Oftentimes, I find that when I take screenshots out of the video to cut and put on the thumbnail, sometimes if I don't get the right frame, it can be blurry.
Yeah.
And so you got to be really careful about that kind of stuff.
You can't get an in-between frame. It has to be you like solid, still, not a ton of crazy movement, or like you were striking a pose and staying still, basically. Do that if you need to, whatever.
Exactly.
As long as you think about it going ahead. One thing that I definitely want to talk about in this video sometime is text, because I see so many people do it well, and I see a lot of people do it poorly.
Yeah, let's just go straight into the tech stuff,
right?
Because there's a lot that I could talk about this, actually.
So, for starters, if you don't use text and the thumbnail is clean enough and simple enough to understand without it, I'm cool with you, right? Got no problem with those people whatsoever. In fact, a lot of thumbnails are like that. If you have, let's say, the game logo, or like one or two main words that like brands your show, and that's it, again, totally fine with you as well. If you got 5 or more different text options, counting the number, counting the name of the channel, the game you're playing, like what it's about, like all this other unnecessary shit, and it's tiny, I hate you. That's where I start having problems. Because some people take text and just go absolutely insane and out of their mind when they don't need to.
There's a good guideline when it comes to text, and it's, number one, don't have a lot of it.
Yeah.
If you can get away with none, then that's good. If you need text, don't use a lot of it. Number two, don't use more than 2 fonts.
Agreed.
3 at the most, but try to keep it at 2. And when you use these fonts, like, make sure they work well together. And I know that that's like people are like, bruh, I don't even know what the fuck, like, how am I supposed to know how different fonts go together? There's a lot of stuff online. You can literally look up online, like, fonts that go well together. And there are, like, PDFs and articles and all that kind of stuff that will help you, like, learn all of that. That's very important.
For me, like, straight up, not even gonna lie, before the channel even began, I had somebody, like, make a little thumbnail or whatever for me, or a banner, I think. And I didn't like the banner because it was blurry as shit, but he did have a really good font in there. And so I asked him, hey, what font is that? And he's like, Mullet. And I'm like, oh, okay. And just ever since then, have used that font for everything. Pretty much everything. And there's a couple of reasons why I like it, and this is sort of what I call the YouTube font, right? It's big, it's bold, so it stands out. It works great with drop shadow, and if I want it big or small, it still looks good. So be sure, whichever font you're going with, that it follows some of those rules. Is it easy to scale? Can you make it big? Can you make it small? Is it easily readable? Figure that out. Is it bold? Does it stand out? Check that out. You typically don't want like a cursive font, or like a tiny font, or like a 8-bit gamer font or whatever. And I'm fine with like people using like 1 or 2 different fonts to like work together to create something interesting and fun. But for me, it was very simple. Mullet, and then using the colors in the rest of the thumbnail to tell the story, or game logos with different fonts to tell the story. I don't need like 30 different fonts. And so Mullet has been very good to me. And I recommend everybody at least, just for branding purposes, to find that one font that speaks to them and that they use for everything. I know you don't exactly... Oh, yeah, you do. For Your Everyday Nerd, it's the same font every time at the bottom.
Yeah.
So, talk about that a little bit.
Use the same fonts. Literally use the same fonts for every thumbnail on your channel.
Yeah.
Especially if they're a part of a series.
Yeah.
If you have multiple series, then you can use different fonts for each series. That's fine. But if it's the exact same series, like, do not change the fonts because it just looks bad. It looks incoherent. And it looks like it just looks a mess.
I agree.
For my thumbnails for Your Everyday Nerd, I started out with every single episode has the hashtag like theme of the day. So like Monday nostalgia, trendy Tuesday, backlog Wednesday, etc., etc. So I keep those on every single thumbnail so that people know like what theme this video is going to be about. But then like early on, I did have some like bigger text that I kind of put over the thumbnail to like try to entice people to watch it. And I got rid of doing that because I did want to clutter the thumbnails.
Yeah.
And it just felt like for every single episode, I didn't have some kind of catchy little tagline that I could put on there. So I figured, why use them at all?
Yeah, fuck it.
There are a couple of videos since then that I've put a little bit of text on, like the best and worst new anime of fall 2018. I put 34 new anime on there just so people could understand how many anime was going to be in the video. Anything that has like a logo, like that's technically text, so that goes in there. But that's about it. Usually I like to let the pictures and whatever emotion I've got on my face kind of
sell it a little bit.
Sell it, exactly.
Yeah.
One of the other things to keep in mind about text is that colors matter.
Color is huge.
I
was gonna get into that next, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay, cool. I've seen the classic like no is red text on a black background.
Never do that.
You just can't read it.
Yeah.
And if you can't read it, then nobody else will be able to read it. So keep that in mind. Even if you think it looks like cool and awesome, like it's about accessibility. Again, like, yeah, technically thumbnails are art and you need to like make them with artistic purpose, but you can't get too artistic with it because then people won't know what the hell it is.
I hate yellow text on white backgrounds, especially.
Oh yeah, that's awful.
That shit's awful. And but yeah, that gets into color in general. Color's a big selling point, right? Especially in something visual. Having the right color choice in there can go a long way from helping your thumbnails stand out and make them interesting. It also is a way to establish a bit of a brand and consistency if you use the same color over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
So for Your Everyday Nerd and back to the video games, blue border, right? Zach's is regular blue. I have like an ocean thing going on or whatever. Blue, basically. There's a little bit of blue in every thumbnail, no matter how you go about it. And if we want to get specific with like, all of Zach's Mega Mans typically have a lot of blue in there. Dragon Ball has this very orange color that sticks out really well. The PewDiePie review uses his like, color aesthetic and choice. The 34 new anime
all the
one.
Flash have the same Flash background.
Flash, like NES Online, has that nice red to it. Deltarune has these crazy sort of neon colors because that's sort of how that game looks. But taking advantage of color choice and using it not only to make yourself stand out, but also be consistent is a really cool thing you can do. And it can be hard sometimes. A problem I run into is having thumbnails that look too similar to each other, at least in the color department, to where not enough is different and you don't get a lot of variation. Looking on Zach's channel right now, the Incredibles red and the Flash red are put right back to back in each other, so it almost looks like those two videos are one video.
Yeah. The Incredibles thumbnail is awful, by the way. I need to fix that. I've been meaning to go back and do a new one, but it's awful.
Some of my thumbnails.
Glad you pointed it out.
I keep changing them like every week. I'm not good at that.
Which isn't a bad thing.
I don't think so either.
Quick aside, we talked about it before, but there's a channel named Jarvis. Jarvis Johnson. He does, he does different videos than he started off doing, but he found that when he had a trending video and he went and changed the title and thumbnail to a past video, that video ended up going trending as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like changing thumbnails, like plus, if you think you can make it better, go for it.
All right. And sometimes I just get new ideas. I get creative inspiration, and I'm like, this thumbnail sucks. I know how to do it better now. Where in the moment, I don't, because I'm doing it literally after the video's done, and it's got to be uploaded, and so I'm sloppily putting shit together. But the day after, I'm like, yo, maybe I could do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I've gone back and changed some old thumbnails, too, just to make them look better, at least the productions videos. It's a great idea.
You made an interesting point there. You said how, like, you, like, slap the thumbnails together. One of the things that I find is that if I don't do thumbnails ahead of time, then I will slap them together and they won't look good. And like that is the result of a couple of thumbnails on my channel. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Making the thumbnails ahead of time. I try to make the thumbnails before I finish the videos now.
Wow.
Because I want to make sure I spend enough time like making it look good. Sometimes I wait until the video is rendering. Rendering is a really good place to like do thumbnails.
That's an idea.
But I've gotten into the habit that when I'm recording a Your Everyday Nerd episode, there's a little segment at the beginning where I'm doing some kind of stupid pose so that I can get that for the thumbnail. I go ahead and in the rough edit, I usually clip that, put that in a Photoshop file, and I try to go ahead and get at least the general idea of the thumbnail done.
I think that's a good
so
practice.
that it just makes everything run more like smoother, and I think that the thumbnails end up better because of it.
Back when Blue Catch Productions was a variety channel, one of the key ways that I tried to niche down and give it that consistent theme was every video had that border and it had the Hawaiian like design on it, and Let's Plays all had the number and the square and all that sort of stuff. But what would distinguish series and stuff is obviously like the game and the background and the logo and all that sort of thing. But the color, so streams being green, Blue Catch Plays being orange, Channel Update being purple, regular stuff being blue. And a lot of those color choices were conscious decisions. Blue Couch Plays is straight up orange because Game Grumps is orange. That was my thought behind that.
Right.
Blue Couch Streams is green because when I think of live, I think of like, a green light, or like when YouTube dashboard, the live dashboard says your channel is live and good, there's like a green color associated to that. Midnight Vlogs is this light blue because like midnight, right? That's sort of the vibe you want to get across. And then shitposter pink because I ran out of colors and I wanted them to be pink. So not all of them are smart like that, but almost every one of these series in the development of the thumbnails, the color choice was very specific and a conscious effort. And for all you guys that are like doing variety channels or niche channels even and doing series, thinking in mind, like, is this the best color for the job, right? Is this color going to appeal to the most people? And most people think about it, but it's more of a subconscious thing. If you're not aware of that already, maybe start to be a little bit more and realize that when it comes to YouTube and like pop culture, a lot of colors kind of end up repeating for similar trends and themes, and knowing which ones to pick can save you in the long run.
I've noticed that a lot when making the thumbnails and these like backdrops that I use inside the Your Everyday Nerd videos. Like there's so much fucking red.
Yeah. And
I can't get away from it. Like it's the Flash stuff, the Incredibles, the Nintendo Entertainment System stuff, like Wreck-It Ralph, Titans, like everything is red.
Yeah.
And I can't get away from it because that's what defines, like, that's the color of that show.
Right.
Deadpool and Cells at Work, like, most of these I've had, like, red backgrounds.
Red's a color that stands out. It shows, like, power, right? And so, superheroes, Deadpool and Flash, I mean, Incredibles, of course, is going to be red. Like, that's the color associated with superheroes. Superman's red for a reason, everybody. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason darker colors are associated with edgy stuff and why Batman has darker colors. That's why kid shows typically have a mix of all that sort of stuff. More family-friendly things are typically blue. You know, like thinking ahead of some of that shit will really kind of improve thumbnails.
Definitely.
100%.
I agree.
The only thing I can think left to talk about is we mentioned that both me and you have now started doing like live action inserts into thumbnails. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a learning process for me. It was kind of tricky to figure out like, okay, so how do I do this? Like what's your process and rule of thumb for getting like you in the thumbnail?
Well, I've been doing the same thing for clients for the last like 7 months now. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had like practice doing that. But basically I go through the video and I try to find a screenshot that looks good enough to put on a thumbnail. Sometimes it works. Like I said, more recently I've been like making poses to make it work. The last like 5 episodes of the show has been like that. But then like other times I just find something that like works enough and like put it on there. And that's when you just get like these derpy faces of mine that I really should go back and like fix.
I know, I love them. I love them. Some of my favorites. The room one. I like that face.
Yeah. It's so dumb.
A good bit. What was some of the other ones? Shit, the PewDiePie one, that face on that one's like are you gonna?
Oh yeah, that was a... Yeah, that one was posed.
I like that
like
one.
I had that one planned.
And then the Deadpool like shocked face. It's really dumb. But I like it as well.
Yeah, but like the cells at work, my second one, like that just looks bad. It's not a good picture of me. It doesn't make any sense. I just like pulled something from the thing because I was like, let me get this done. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I try to like go through the video, find a good screenshot. Then I have to put it in Photoshop and, clip it out. Ideally, you make poses beforehand. If you got somebody that can take a picture of you, like that's really the way to do it. I know that entrepreneur and YouTube guru Roberto Blake, he uses he has like fucking photo shoots.
Yeah.
And he gets like headshots, and he's got like a couple hundred of these things that he can just like
pick and choose,
plaster on the thumbnails. Yeah,
that's really cool.
And so like a lot of them he'll be like in the same shirt, but they're different emotions and they work.
Yeah.
And so eventually I want to try to do something like that, but
we're a long way
it's
out.
not really needed right now. Yeah.
From what I found, because I've had to take the photos after the video, because my head's chopped off in the video for at least the first 2 episodes, I've had to take photos. And typically what I'll do is I'll get like a tripod and my phone or my camera, set it up, make sure the lighting is okay enough. Like I don't want any part of me like looking dark for some reason. Right. And then after that, it's just a matter of like clicking the timer on the phone or the camera, getting in a position, taking the photo, realize, oh, that one's shitty. Try something else. And keep doing that until I get the one I got. You'll notice my past 2 is just like me holding up my hands and putting things there. Eventually it'll get to the point where I'll be able to like sneak a dab in there or some more dynamic poses. But what I wanted to avoid and what I see so often is the shitty, here's me smiling and standing still for every video.
Right.
The same fucking photo. That's
it's
the
hard.
stuff I hate.
It's hard. Like some of mine is just me like shitty smiling, and I'm like, I can't
live with it.
I can't do this. This isn't okay.
Right.
But yeah, it's tough.
You gotta be dynamic.
I mean, it is. And when you're not like used to being that emotive in your natural life, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's something you have to learn as a YouTuber. Like you gotta have to, I don't like the word over exaggerate for this, but like you kind of have to.
Yeah.
Like kind of get out there a little bit more, get out of your comfort zone and do that kind of shit, or you just won't come across like enthused with whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, you typically want to take a picture of yourself that like defines the emotion of the video. So if you're doing something on something that sucks, frowny face. If you're angry, anger, right? Something really good, the shocked face, like however you want to go about it, basically.
Yeah.
I typically don't like putting logic in mine and just meme it up, but some people having consistency can help. So
I have I think five fucking thumbnails about bad things with just like my head in my face, or my head in my hands in some form. Like there's like 5 of them like that.
Yeah.
Just because it's like bad shit. I'm like, oh, not again.
Yeah. I mean, it really do
But
be
no,
like
it
that.
works. It really do.
100%. But I think that's all I had. Oh, as far as backgrounds are concerned, kind of a similar rule I have with text. Don't go too crazy with it. If you have a lot of background elements, typically not a good idea. One way you can get around it is by blurring the background or introducing drop shadow to the elements that are in front of the background. That way there's sort of a little bit of distance and it kind of feels like 3D-ish. I really like that effect a lot, if you can't tell. The other way you can do it is just like simple ass backgrounds and call it a day.
Yeah, I feel like with backgrounds, there's 2 traps you can get into, and it's really frustrating. I'm still trying to like figure it out. Like, it can sometimes either be too simple or too complex.
Yeah.
And either or can be bad. You just got to play around with it. Try to have some what's called white space, but not too much white space. It really is an art that you kind of have to like get used to and just keep doing and doing and doing and doing.
Learning things like shadows and outlines can really help go a long way in distinguishing the front stuff and the background. So I really think that's a smart idea to include something of that effect. And then like, if you want to add like post-processing effects, PewDiePie mentioned in his thumbnail one that he typically puts saturation and contrast a little bit higher because those brighter colors are more likely to get clicked on, which is a thing.
Definitely.
Some people fix like beauty flaws or crooked teeth or whatever. If you want to do that,
I don't give a fuck.
I don't care. But like if you're a beauty channel, that might be a good idea. I don't know.
That's fair.
I'm just trying to
that is fair.
Throw shit out there and everything. And then as far as like the rest of the stuff, the images you choose and everything, the only rule I have for that is just like make sure it makes sense and make sure the images are transparent. And the easy way you do that is you go to Google, you type in whatever, and then I think it's tools, images, tools, go to color, and then transparent. And what you get is that checkered background. That's what you're looking for. And so when you put it in there, now there won't be some stupid white background or white border. However, if you find an image you really like that has that white in there and there's no transparent version of it at all, using a magic wand type deal and like clicking on that white or whatever and then like deleting it, that works too. Just a little quick thing I found out. You'll learn about all this stuff in tutorials if you don't know. I don't want to get in that nitty gritty, but
yeah,
transparent images are the way to go.
Definitely, if you can find the transparent image, that's great. Usually, especially when I'm like clipping out my actual like face and shit for the thumbnails, I have to use the pen tool a lot. I use the pen tool on a daily basis, and forever and ever I just kind of avoided it. I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm gonna use the magic wand tool and just like it'll look bad, but I don't want to do this. I've ended up like getting used to the pen tool to where I can just like clip out any image in like a few seconds. Or under a minute at least, you know, like.
Yeah. I do it with free select.
It's beneficial.
Where you like select at any point and then you like make an outline around yourself and go from there. Like delete stuff. Yeah. But if it's a green screen, Magic Wand's just a lot easier. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
So that's a thing. Learn software tutorials, learn about your program, find out new stuff, and if you find like a weird effect, try to learn from that. See what you can pick up along the way. It can all be helpful. Definitely. And again, remember, like me and Zach said, very much an art, not a science. What works for you does not work for us. And establishing your own brand and theme can go a very long way into helping distinguish each other. Even though me and Zach are doing like an everyday show type stuff, you can tell based on the theming of both of these shows that they are different. Sure, there's the blue border, but I have the wood background, I have the Back to the Video Games logo, I have the outline around myself, and like a couple of images. Zach, not as much. He has the text at the bottom, the little box, the little blue thing, a picture of himself, the background, and like all sorts of other things. His are a bit more intricate than mine, I'll say. But I do want to at some point kind of change the wood background, but early on I'm just sticking to what comes easy for me at the moment. But I'm learning too. I'm growing along the way. I fixed past thumbnails. I'm making new ones, and I've had a blast with it so far, and I can't wait to continue learning it. But you got anything else left to say on the thumbnail game?
I don't have anything specific as far as things that we missed out, but I do want to say, I don't know, we'll do a little segue into a sponsor segment today. A lot of people just don't want to learn how to make good thumbnails.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you can do is you can get like a pack of templates.
Yeah.
To make thumbnails. And my boy Roberto has the YouTube starter kit. Have you heard of this before?
I have, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's great. It's like hundreds of different templates for thumbnails, channel artwork, end cards. There's lower thirds. There's like 100+ like font list. Like there's all kinds of good stuff. You can use it for Photoshop. You can also use it on GIMP. Like it's great. It is $99, which is a little steep for most people. However, like if you're starting YouTube, a lot of people end up spending more than $99 on their microphone, their webcam, their computer, etc.
Ain't that the truth?
So if you're gonna spend like a lot of money on a bunch of equipment, then you might as well spend a little bit extra money on like making your thumbnails look good, because
that's arguably
people ain't gonna watch them.
It
is.
Yeah.
Most definitely is. So yeah, it's $99 for the YouTube starter kit. It also, like, Roberto is constantly updating it. So there's like new stuff that comes, and that's completely free after you've paid the price.
Yep.
So I think it's worth checking out if you don't want to learn and use the like tutorials and all that kind of stuff. I know a lot of people that's found a lot of success with it.
That's a great way to start too, of like, oh, these are some fonts I can use. Oh, this is how like good thumbnails are put together. You can kind of learn a little bit about design and what's good and sort of turn it into your own thing, right? And that's what all these templates and kits are great for. Yes, you can use them 100% like strictly and be like, I'm going to use this as a thumbnail. But adding your own creative element and spin as you learn what all these things do, that's where the real magic of stuff like this comes into play.
Absolutely. Again, my best, like, the best way I've learned both video editing and thumbnail design is just by looking at other people's stuff and copying certain elements here and there and making it work for me.
Yeah. I mean, heck, YouTube podcasts, we're all about giving stuff on here. Like, if you want, like, straight up, take some of our thumbnails, find out how you can make them, and use that and go from there. You know?
For sure.
We're not 100% offended. Like, don't just straight copy paste and put it on there. Like, obviously add your own unique shit. But if you, like, want to use our template and shit, feel free to. They're not unique to us. They're not new to us. I got inspired by Scott the Waz, and I think you kind of did too.
Yeah, there's quite a few people that have
There's creative influences everywhere, but, like, use our stuff as an example and go from that. Like, we're not going to track you down or whatever and fucking hunt you in the streets. Like, if you want to learn, feel free. Use our shit and go from there and, like, add your own stuff to it.
Absolutely.
You know?
I do not mind that at all.
We're all in favor of helping you guys learn and start out. And if this makes it easier for you, like, go for it.
100%.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't have anything else to say.
Me neither.
I think that it was, like we said earlier, it was going to be a short topic. We're going to get through it quick. And I still think there's some valuable stuff there. So I think that works out.
Indeedy.
But we do have a comment from Calfro.
Wow.
On episode 32. I was telling Aden earlier, I was like, we didn't get a comment from Patient this week. The reason is because we're recording earlier than we usually do.
Yeah. The way we do these now is...
I didn't realize that.
We try to be an episode ahead. So...
Yeah.
It's currently the 12th, which means that on tomorrow, the 13th, the last episode we recorded goes out. And then this one that we're recording right now won't go up until the 20th. So it'll be a while.
Yeah.
Which means we are unfortunately a little bit kind of fucked when it comes to comments, but as they come in, we'll keep reading them, no matter how old the upload is.
Absolutely.
So, feel free to keep commenting.
So, exactly. Like, comment. Let us know what you're thinking. Any questions you have. Any topics you have. Definitely helps us a lot. And if you have, like I said, questions, we can help you as well.
Yep.
Do you want me to read the comment?
Go right ahead.
Calfro says, "Yo, you slugs are back at it, I see. I've been falling behind a bit myself. 2 kids, full-time job, girlfriend, friends, blah, blah, blah. Only 1 girlfriend. Sorry. I just finished recording my next video. Soon I'll be back in the rat race with you guys. Can't believe I let 3 months get away from me." You're telling me.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for still pumping out videos on both your personal channels. Seeing you both continue keeps me inspired to keep working. Let's kick this year's ass.
Amen. What a wholesome comment.
I think that's just exactly. I agree.
What a nice comment.
Thanks for the comment. As usual, I'm glad to see that you've got a new video coming out. I really like Calfro's content.
Me too.
So I'm excited for that new content.
You know how easy it is to not do anything for 3 months? You know how much it would be awesome for me to just like quit for 3 months
Bruh.
and focus on other things? That'd be great.
Bruh. Yeah. I'm just imagining not doing anything YouTube related for the next 3 months. I would be homeless.
True.
But I could visit the library more often.
There you go. You could read.
Yeah. They let homeless people in there, so it'd be good.
You can beg for money. Living the dream.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the real 2019 goal, is to not be homeless by the end of it.
Hell yeah.
Let's be honest with ourselves. But anyways, leave us comments. Check out the YouTube starter kit if you're interested. That will help the channel, by the way. It will help the network of stuff that we got going on. If you click on that, and give us more topics. We like topics. Thanks again to Patient for giving us this comment.
Mad
this topic.
Respect to Patient. And feel free to comment on all the other platforms too, because Anchor distributes it to a lot of places. We'll be sure to get around to it eventually. Mm-hmm. But Zach, what if they want to somehow give money to this podcast that doesn't involve buying a thing?
Well, I'm glad you asked. You can sponsor another YouTube podcast. It's pretty special. I really like it because it means getting money. And let me tell you, money is great. Go to anchor.fm/another-YouTube-podcast. Link is in the description on YouTube, and you can see it in the show notes and everything else. You got this little button called Support This Podcast, where you can become, it's like Patreon, except for Anchor.
Yeah.
You can sponsor for 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 per month. Very easy to set up. And like I said, I like it because we get money.
Hell yeah.
And that's a dope thing to get.
Agreed.
And we'll make sure to shout you out in future episodes if you become a sponsor.
Yep. Give a little bit back to you guys for still watching and enjoying the podcast.
Absolutely. But I think that's it.
Yeah.
Again, it's been a short one.
A shorty.
It's been nice.
But again, I felt like we got a lot more like value in a short amount of time, though. If that's weird. Like, I feel like there's some 2-hour episodes we've done that have had less value in here. We got a lot in an hour 30.
Probably because we talk about memes sometimes.
No. What a shock.
I don't know. We started this one talking about shit, so like maybe we're getting a little bit better, but not.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I feel bad for the people that like watch this episode, like, oh boy, sure hope there's some value. Get to the shit conversation and then leave and then miss the rest of this great episode.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be unfortunate. But we can just make fun of those people.
Exactly.
Because we're in the right, obviously.
We're right, you're wrong. Give me money.
Give me money. It's just how I end all of my conversations these days. But anyways, I think we should end it off.
Yep.
I want to go jack off. I've been Zach.
I've been Aden.
And thank you for listening to this episode of Another YouTube Podcast.
I'm going to crank one out.
Bye.
Bye.